Simply Mad here, coming to you from Tucson, Arizona. I want to talk to you guys a little bit about my psychedelic trip that I took not too long ago. I would tell you about my first trip that I took, but can't remember because it was kind of a while ago. I want to mention that I don't condone the use of any psychedelic drugs or any drugs in that matter. This is just a story for educational purposes, something that happened to me. We're going to be talking a little bit about what happened when I took it, talk a little bit about myself, and how I think about life now after I took the psychedelic, um, which was LSD, or acid, as some people call it. Um, Let me get this game going for a minute. Alright. So, start off by saying, as a child, I was very different. I was always told that I was very mature for my age, and I guess that was pretty cool, you know. My mom always told me that I was able to handle myself very well, you know. I was always to myself, I was always that kid, you know, who was always playing by himself, not really getting to know others, but it's not that I didn't have any, like, interest in getting to know people. I was just always, you know, by myself for the most part. But I guess what would be the weirdest
Sure,
thing
let
about
me
me
just
was
hop what I'm going to talk to you
the
about.
way I've always been dreaming. I've never been able to dream correctly, I guess you could say. As we all know, dreams can be very weird, you know. So I never had the audacity or the intent of telling anybody my dreams because I've always known my dreams are kind of weird, you know what I mean? And so when I was little, you know, I was never able to dream, you know, like very vividly. You know, some people they see characters that are people that they've seen before, or events that have happened before. My kind of trips were never like that, really. Um, my dreams were always, for a lack of words, psychedelic, I guess. Um, I would be walking around and you know, the trees would be very fluorescent. They wouldn't be your normal colored trees. It'd be purple, green, magenta, you name it. It was, you know, pretty odd. But as I was, you know, dreaming, I would find these figures or people, you know, with very odd shaped faces. You know, they weren't very human-like, I guess, and I've never seen them before at all. Um, their speech was very odd. It was never normal, I guess. You know, like it sounded almost alien-like, but I understood it at the time. But I never really questioned it, you know, because who would? You know, it's your dreams. Like who cares? And so I just went on with my life, you know, thinking I was normal. You know, no one ever told me anything about it. Like, I was always thinking my dreams were just like everybody else's, and you know that you know I never had really a need to tell anybody what was going on about my dreams. I guess they're getting really weird, and that's where I'm getting to right now. So a little backstory: when I was younger, I had met this friend named Amber. You know, really great friend. Unfortunately, she's not here with us, which I'll get to in a moment. You know, as a young person, I met her through like church. You know, I was very little. I believe I was like 6, I think. Um, and I met Amber through this kind of church thing. Like my nana would always go to church, and they would have like you know that thing where they feed the poor and whatnot. And so I met Amber kind of through that, and she uh, she was always very special to me. You know, I was, like I said, I was always to myself, and she was kind of the first person who kind of brought me out of my shell, per se. Um, she was always very uplifting, very nice, easygoing kind of person, very understanding, and she was obviously homeless, and so was her mother at the time. They would go to church, and that's how I knew her. I would, do what normal kids do, play on the playground, and we would do things, push each other on the slide, whatnot, normal kid shit. And it wasn't until maybe by the age of 8, maybe 8 or 9, that she finally stopped going to church, and her mom, wasn't a very bright woman, per se. She was obviously into some crazy shit. But she was a very respectable woman. She was very to herself, for the most part. And that was cool, I didn't really care. I had a friend, and I never really bothered her, so she was always just, around. And what was weird is, whenever I would hang out with Amber, her mom was always off doing something else, and she wasn't very around, and it always, made me wonder, like, what is she doing? But at the same time, you're 8 years old, you don't care about, kid shit, and, hold on, I can't even get out of here. And so, time went on, and she, at the age of 8, her mother finally spoke to me at one point, and she told me that, I was supposed to kind of keep her and Amber, low key. She told me, like, I shouldn't, speak to them as much to my parents and stuff, and I kind of didn't. I mean, I only saw them at church, like, every once in a while, and oops.